What things have programmed your heart, your GPS? Has it caused your moral compass to be broken? Hello, everybody. This is Mike from Catholic Treehouse. I'd like to welcome you to episode 46 of the Saint in Progress podcast, your source for inspiration, information, and directions for your soul's journey back home to the Father's house. As always, you can find us at catholictreehouse.com or saintinprogress.com and on Substack at catholictreehouse.substack.com. Last weekend, Kevin Lowry and his wife Kathy were at the Together in Holiness Conference for Married Engaged Couples. Now, Kevin wrote the book that Catholic Treehouse published called Honor Thy Wife, and he and Kathy were invited to come speak at the conference. They did just a phenomenal job, and it's a wonderful book, and I tell you what, they are wonderful people. They really are. And their humbleness and relatability and down-to-earth nature just really came through in their talk. And I think that's one of the reasons why Honor Thy Wife is such a great book, and I highly recommend it. It's one of the reasons I was so excited to publish it, is because Kevin just comes across just with total genuineness. And he is very relatable in the problems that he had, the struggles that he had and went through. And you can really learn a lot of his wisdom of over 30 years of marriage with, all the kids that they have and everything else just by reading his book. And that's one of the reasons I highly recommend it. So honorthywife.com, or you can go just straight to catholictreehouse.com or find it on Amazon. I had a rather interesting thing happen in the week since the last episode. Our oldest daughter, who's 15, asked us if she can watch the movie 16 Candles because she'd heard about it, and it's a coming of age movie and everything else. Now, I hadn't watched it in a long time. I quote it because I quote a lot of movies and occasionally song lyrics in my day-to-day conversation. That's just kind of the person that I am. But I hadn't actually sat down and watched it. So my wife and I have learned the hard way that sitting down and watching the movie before you let your kids watch it, well, you might find some things that you had forgotten about in the movie. And that's exactly what happened when we watched 16 Candles, because it was pretty much entirely about nothing but sex. And I was like, wow, I had forgotten all of that. The only thing that I really remembered was
what's happening, hot stuff?
And some of the other quotes. So obviously we did not let her watch the movie. Matter of fact, we turned it off after about maybe 25, 30 minutes or so, because we're like, yep, this isn't going to happen. And we didn't want to waste the rest of our evening watching a movie that, it was beyond our time, and there's really nothing of good value in there. And it got me thinking about how our society has changed so much. And not just in the past, 20 years, man, people talk about that all the time. Oh, in the past 20 years, things have changed so much, whatever. Now I'm going to go back like a lot further. And I'm going to go back and talk about a little bit about the period of Enlightenment, which is kind of a misnomer. I don't know why they called it the Enlightenment period, because it's more like the Endarkenment. Because what ended up happening is, during this period, if you're not familiar with it or if you've had forgotten it from history class, the Enlightenment period is when we got all of these big thinkers like Voltaire. They wrote all this philosophical stuff and whatever. And what they did is they replaced God with reason. Matter of fact, in France, the Cathedral of Notre Dame, they took it over. And while they were busy guillotining people and all the rest of that during the French Revolution, they took over the Cathedral of Notre Dame and they turned it into, as they called it, the Temple of Reason, and did all this sacrilegious stuff in there. So when the Catholic Church eventually got it back, they had to reconsecrate it to make up for all the sacrileges that happened in the cathedral. If you want to know how powerful the writings of Voltaire and the other Endarkenment writers were at the time, I'm recording this on Thursday, October 9th, which just so happens to be the feast of our newest doctor of the church, Saint John Henry Cardinal Newman. And let me tell you a little bit about his story. He was a banker's son. He was born in England in 1801. At the age of 7, while he was at school, he started reading Voltaire and came home one day and declared, "There is no God." Well, he went from that to reading some Protestant authors and then eventually became an Anglican priest, and eventually he became a Catholic priest. He's the one that famously said, "To be deep in history is to cease to be Protestant." Now he's a doctor of the church. Well, all of these writers and that entire movement of the Enlightenment, Endarkenment, whatever you want to call it, it brought about the end of Christendom. Now, what is Christendom? Well, the era of Christendom started around the time of Constantine, around the end of the 4th century. It saw the establishment of a Christian society that was so steeped and saturated in Christianity that the messages everywhere you went were all Christocentric, as paganism was replaced with Christianity in every facet of everybody's life. And it saw a great flourishing of modern society as people lived the Christian faith. It included everything from governance to education and social and societal norms and mores and all the rest of that. And its decline was precipitated by the Enlightenment period, because that brought about total secularism and modern nation states that were no longer ruled by Christian kings. So we have the Enlightenment thinkers to thank for all of that. So what does all that have to do with 16 Candles and modern movies and music and everything? I'm getting there. So what you can see, and you're going to see it especially around Halloween coming up. Okay, we are reverting back to a more pagan society. Christendom is no longer around to reinforce the lessons learned in church on Sundays in every other aspect of life. Now, church is relegated to Sundays, and the other 6 days of the week, the other hours on Sunday, are surrounded by nothing but pagan messaging. Vice is glorified, virtue is mocked, instant gratification is the cause du jour. And when I talk about vice being glorified, how many TV shows and movies and music are out there that glorify premarital sex? Kind of like in the movie 16 Candles. How many things are out there that glorify living together without being married? Drinking, recreational drug use, gambling, all that stuff. I mean, all you have to do is watch the commercials on your average Saturday or Sunday football game, and you see all of it. Let's look about people of virtue. How many characters in everything from cartoon shows like The Simpsons, where Ned Flanders was the upright moral Christian who was mocked and made fun of,
Idly ho, neighborinos,
to movies, television, all the rest of that, where the people of virtue are the prudes. They're the ones who aren't having any fun. They're the ones who are made fun of. Now think about everything that has programmed you. And if we're talking about the road home to the Father's house, let's call it your GPS, your heart, your moral compass. What things have programmed your heart, your GPS? Has it caused your moral compass to be broken? What about the TV that you have watched since you were a kid? The movies that you've watched and continue to watch? The music that you listen to? What vices were portrayed positively in those things? What virtues were mocked? Now, if you are what you eat, then what are you feeding your soul? What were you fed growing up? What did you seek out to feed yourself? What do you continue to feed yourself? So it's time that you start thinking about soul food. And let's start with the music that you listen to. Now, you don't have to do it all at once, but put together a plan. And I'd like to encourage you as we're hurtling through the fall and getting close to Advent and Christmas, have a plan that for this Advent that you take a fast from all secular music. Listen to only holy music during Advent to prepare yourself for the coming of Jesus Christ. Now, it's not going to be easy. Obviously, you go into stores and everything, and they're going to have their music on loop, and you'll be hearing everything from Jingle Bell Rock to Hey Baby, It's Cold Outside, and who knows what other different quote unquote Christmas songs that are out there. All that stuff is going to be around. You can't get away from it. But what you choose to listen to, have a plan as if you're going on a diet. People, there's that book out there, Eat This, Not That. How about listen to this and not that for Advent this year? Because let me tell you something. Once you fast from a vice and you replace it with something virtuous, once you do that for long enough and you then expose yourself to that vice again, your soul rightly shudders. You wince. There's a physical reaction after fasting from something that's bad and replacing it with something good and holy. Once you're exposed to that vice again and your soul is reoriented in the direction it's supposed to go, your body will let you know that's bad. And that's something that was probably trained out of you for most of your entire life based on the fact that we're living in an increasingly pagan society. So if you reprogram your GPS, you get your moral compass reset on going on the right direction. It's going to make it far, far easier for you to identify what's good and what's bad in your life. So start with music. Plan to do it this Advent. Go through your music library and decide, should I really be listening to this? And if the answer is probably not, eliminate it. And if you have kids and you have grandkids and you allow them to be exposed to things that they shouldn't be listening to, well, remember that Jesus said that anyone who allows the little ones to be scandalized, it'd be better if they had millstones hung around their neck and they were cast into the sea. Now, I don't know about you, but that's not a place I want to be. So protect your soul and protect the souls of the other passengers who you're responsible for. Okay, that's it for this week. Now, just a reminder, the Saint Challenge resets on All Saints' Day. And you'll learn about things like Christendom and the Enlightenment and some of the great martyrs of the church that we've had during that period. And you'll also meet people like Blessed Alcuin of York, who is responsible almost single-handedly for the rise of Christendom in the first place. So be sure to pick up your copy of the Saint Challenge. You can go to thesaintchallenge.com. Make sure you put the in front of it. Or if you don't want to buy the book, you can sign up for the daily email, which is free. So that's it for this week, my friends. As always, love God, love your neighbor, stay in a state of sanctifying grace, get to confession if you need to. Pray your rosary for peace this month. That's the request of our Holy Father, Pope Leo. And pray it together with your family. As always, pray for the conversion of hearts of all those people who have fallen away. And never forget that you are a saint in progress. So go out there and be a saint.